Hello, welcome everyone. Lovely to see you all again. Welcome back, Sue Grockmel, my friend and moderator. Where are we going today? Do you want to start us off, Sue?
For sure. Hi, everybody. Ricky Green, Carmen, Christiane from Saskatoon. Nice to see you all. So, what's been coming through my clients and into my life? Garden Hoe, of course, right on. Is that we're just coming to learn how to trust again. Mm-hmm. It's so much over the centuries, the betrayal traumas and just, whether new friends or old friends or colleagues, trust ourselves, but just learning to open our hearts and trust again. So Lori from Guelph and Emma.
Yes. All right. Well, this is a really great start to the conversation. Trust. What a powerful topic. And as I'm shuffling here, I don't know, it might have even been in last week's live, or it might have been in one of my sessions this past week, but there was some perspective on, there's a lot of tuning in within and acknowledging where we don't trust ourselves, say, for example. So anything that we're struggling with out in the world, be it power, be it, healthy roles of the masculine and the feminine, trusting in any kind of relationship, our relationship with ourselves, with spirit or God, our relationship with each other and between countries,
and relationship with authority.
Yeah, relationship with authority. So all of these are in a way outward manifestations of our inward experience. And so when we are traumatized as individuals and as a species, as a collective species, we, it's that phenomena where we end up sort of almost embodying that trauma and starting to act it out within ourselves. So they say, I remember when I was first learning about a lot of the, the truth or information and waking up, the message that I was receiving by a lot of the teachers in that realm back in those days was that the controllers don't have to really turn the screws on often, or at least they didn't used to, because once you get into that kind of trauma pattern, people monitor themselves. They keep themselves in prison. They keep themselves right. And then in their family relationships and in their communities and in their partnerships, like they do it to themselves and each other. So you don't even have to apply the outer system anymore. So that's what we're cracking through. And the only one, if you think about it, the only one we really have control over is total control over is in the inside one.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
So, there's I remember also working with different healing modalities in the last couple of decades. And there were questions about, different things flaring up in your body. And the question of, instead of looking for the outward cause, you look for the inward cause. How am I, denying that part of myself or sabotaging that part of myself or compromising that part of myself? So trust, to me, I'm going to pull cards on it here, but to me, trust falls into that category of what I've noticed about healing trust in my relationship with, the unfolding scenarios in our world, is it comes down to me. It comes down to like the parts of me that are still somehow in collusion with that narrative, that big power top-down narrative. And if I'm still living it, I can't point the finger out there and say, I don't trust you or them or this world or the current paradigm. It's actually like starts with me. So let's see. Ooh, nice starting point. This is us. This is all of us. This is like where we're at. So I want to say we're really warming up. I love that you got a warm drink there, Sue. We're really warming up to self-appreciation, which can eventually translate into authentic self-love. And eventually that begins to build bridges of trust within us.
Not the inner child. Looks like an inner child to me.
It does, right? That's the most, I want to say, like, it's very warming, almost always well aspected, the sun card. Out of the 78, it's probably the most positive. And this is showing up as us, those of us that are considering this question right now. So to me, this means we're quite far along in the evolution of coming into a relationship of trust inside.
Right.
And, you know, it's interesting. They're showing, we're going to start with ourselves. And then this is the building card. You see that they're building like the archway. The Three of Pentacles is like, it's working collaboratively to build something that is both strong but also flexible. Threes are dynamic numbers. So it starts with us, but we are doing the amazing work. And then we reach out and work in our closest circles. And instead of trusting narratives or opinions or perspectives, intel, we can trust kind of almost like the proof of what we're capable of building. So we can trust our own creations. And that's where we start. So one of the games I like to play with this, you know, being awake all these years is, regardless of which one of those intels are accurate,
right,
my response is almost always the same. Like, you know what I mean? I don't need to as much be absolutely certain that I trust the outer opinion of what's going on right now, the outer truth.
Right.
Because if it was this, if it was that, if it was that, if it was that, my response is almost always going to be very similar.
Because what's on the outside is really on the outside is inconsequential. It's already been manifested.
Good point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's where, you know, back in the old manifestation days too, we used to talk about we're living. Interesting, the number 3 there, the kind of code phrase, and who knows if this is accurate or not, but over the years you can start to see the evidence of this, was about 3 months. Like, we're living in the past. We're living outwardly about 3 months in the past. So we can be like progressing and growing evolutionary leaps and bounds, but it still looks like the old, and we get really freaked out by that, right?
Sure.
So what we want to do is we want to make, so this is beautiful, the past, innocence, the inner child. Interesting. If you think about children, it's almost like if you told them any number of different stories,
right,
about what reality is or what's going on out around them, their response of what you should do about it is almost always going to be the same. Like, they only know their natural response in the beginning.
Right.
So it's like
not the programmed response. So we're responding either out of our programs.
We are.
Listen to someone, Bruce Lipton, he's like, so 95% of us are living through a programmed life, what we think we're supposed to do, and maybe 5% out of an authentic life. And perhaps we're getting pushed into more of an authentic life.
Yeah. Oh, look at this. So boundaries and defining, like, again, you know, it's almost like testing yourself. Let's say you're looking at a couple of different truths. You're going, okay, I used to believe this. Now I'm not sure about it. I used to believe this. Now I'm not sure about it. I think I might be starting to believe this, but I'm not sure about it. Well, in each scenario, what's your response? Like, what will you do if that's true? What will that invite you into? How will you begin to dynamically respond and create the most creative card in the deck?
Yeah.
Building new foundations that are flexible, dynamic, collaborative. How will you respond? And just play around with noticing, is your response going to be the same regardless of what the input is? And then now you know, okay, that's true. That's your true value. That's your true, that's your truth. It's like your truth is a lot of things can change out there, but no matter what it is, I'm still going to find myself eventually coming at it from this response.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
I can trust that I'm going to do that.
I can trust that I'm going to do that regardless of what the scenario is. And those are my priorities. It also came through readings this week, the words uncertainty. Like the word uncertainty, because it's big right now. We're all feeling so much uncertainty. What should I do? Which way should I go? Should I go this way?
Yeah.
And what was being shown is that uncertainty, if we can just stick with it and not try to rush to cut a shortcut solution or a shortcut opinion and response, if we can just stay in the discomfort of uncertainty, what it begins to do is it begins to give us certainty about what really matters. So the guides are saying, don't be afraid of uncertainty, because
the only thing that's certain is change, for one. This is, like I said, was already manifested. So we're creators, so nothing's happening to us. We're picking the timelines, aren't we, with every choice we make?
Mm-hmm. And if you're uncertain, stay uncertain until you are certain.
It becomes clear. Yeah, wait for clarity. That's sort of like the divine feminine to me. It's like it's waiting and it's patiently watching it unfold and not forcing it to happen.
Yeah. And it begins, okay, like let's say, because uncertainty creates a lot of feelings, right? It creates anxiety, it creates fear. Maybe it creates loneliness. Maybe it creates like a sense of confusion or overwhelm. But if you stay with those emotions long enough to let them show you what they're trying to show you.
Right.
They are trying to show you something that you value that you've forgotten.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So Emma's saying here that the modern world has trained us into instant gratitude. Taking our time and waiting is uncertain and uncomfortable because of this. Yeah, instant gratification. It was like, hey, if you want to go to Mexico, you got to go make some certain choices. If you want to do this or that. And short-sighted decisions were made, knowing that this could shift or change or whatever. Was that fear of, I'm not going to get what I want exactly when I want it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the uncertainty, if we let that sort of just sit. And they're saying, even like play with this. You don't need to let it sit indefinitely, like months and years, but say, I'm going to let it sit for a week. I'm going to let it sit for 2 weeks. I'm going to let myself sit in uncertainty, and I'm not going to force a choice. I'm not going to force polarizing, a strategic path, because I'm certain that my uncertainty and the emotions that come with it are going to bring me to a deeper sense of knowing what my priorities are and what I truly value. And then I can start to make choices from that place.
And that's having that moral compass on the inside, knowing what is right for you. So, and that's not right for everybody else.
Exactly.
That's the other thing. So, Saskatoon, Jima, it seems that there's a major separation between the wheat and the chaff going on right now. Yeah, I've seen a lot of that too. It's very challenging to discern.
So there's, what interesting. Thank you for that comment. And what I'm hearing from your guides or whoever's guides are resonating with that perspective is that this is part of the medicine of what we're being shown right now is that, we are being asked to sit with that discomfort in the not being able to discern, because as we contemplate it more deeply, we start to look for bigger patterns. Again, this need to just go into, I've got an opinion, why is it that we feel it's essential to have an instant opinion and an instant strategy every time we're met with new information? What about the feeling realm and letting the first flush of feelings, it's like making decisions in relationships, for example. You have a fight with your partner, you're in the flush of the anger or the conflict or the trauma. And then if you make these rash decisions from that place and form these strong opinions, sometimes people stick with those polarized ruts for the rest of their lives. They make a story and they stick to that. But if we want to grow into, you can almost guarantee if you're coming from that place of panic, overwhelm,
fear of abandonment,
fear,
or rejection,
then you're
pride,
whatever,
right?
You're not going to be making a choice from the best part of yourself. Now, the guides are saying there's a difference. There's a difference about having the ability to respond to an emergency crisis at your door. They're yelling it at me. They're going, that's different. And we can actually train for that. We can train to have good reflexes and good automatic responses in an emergency. They're saying the word emergency meaning it's emerging in this emerging moment right in front of you.
Well, they have us living in fight or flight in the modern world, like a bear is chasing us on the daily.
But it isn't.
Keeping us in stress, right? Thinking that, it's actually happening and it's not.
Now, this doesn't mean that this isn't a possibility, that this isn't even a probability or a likelihood. But again, that need to create an instant response, an instant solution, an instant strategy, as if you were in the emergency room. It's kind of like they're showing it almost like a triage right now in terms of how we respond to what's going on. And they're saying, obviously, if there's something, if there's military on your front lawn and things right in front of you and crises happening right in front of you, you've got to make fast choices. And there's ways that you can train yourself to respond well in emergency. There's all kinds of ways that you can, have these, I want to say almost like emergency drills. And that to me is a lot about what this whole, arc of the pandemic and everything. To me, it was a lot about, it's kind of like a big fire drill.
How are you going to respond in these situations?
Yeah. And also part of the fire drill is, it's not always the best idea to jump out the window as soon as you smell smoke. Right?
Right. Put things in place.
It's all about coming to an understanding of how to respond to the potential danger without immediately jumping over and putting yourself more at risk. So, and coming from that fierce, frightened place of oh my gosh, it's right here, it's happening, it's imminent, I got to run and jump out the window. I don't care if I might risk everything. And
what's coming to me too is how you respond to someone who's been in that kind of crisis. So important. someone gets raped, something happens to somebody. I saw a little girl in the summertime. A friend and I were walking, and we were both sure she was being abducted. I ran and chased the guy, like chased them. But all of a sudden, I'm facing this child. I can't have panic. I make one wrong move one way or the other way. It could be more detrimental.
Yeah.
You know, I had a lot, and you know, the people who responded to me responded so well. Like they said, you saved her life. Although I could have made other choices, but I had to hear that I did, because I would have spiraled thinking, maybe I made the wrong choice. Maybe I should have done that or whatever. So the two people on the front lines responding to me were the most important thing that could have happened.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And that points out, Sue, by your story, that actually also how we support each other in responding to these crises is huge.
100%. You did the right thing. You did the right thing. You saved that child's life. Whether they actually believe that or not, they know that's what you need to hear. Or even in a response to a rape victim or whatever, or a child being molested or whatever, your response is everything. Just holding that safe space in that moment is everything.
It really is. It really is.
I get that person.
And again, all of these things
in their crisis mind, right? Being able to go, okay.
All of these things are about us learning to have a whole spectrum of different responses, and the ones that aren't immediate, we are actually developing a lot of complex different types of responses and giving ourselves time to sit in the uncertainty to make decisions from a deeper, wiser place within. And then also at the same time, training ourselves to respond to emergency crises. And you can choose whatever you want. It doesn't have to be. I'm noticing that there's comments in here about the Emergencies Act and about.
Yes, this is good. We got to get to that for sure.
Yeah, so we're going to jump into that. And I want to segue by saying, like our response to being sort of put under the gun in a way by a tyrannical force. Again, even in that, there's ways. Now, I'm not saying that the protesters did things wrong, but what I am sensing is there's even like a whole spectrum of different approaches that could have been added to what was done. But again, we're really struggling between, like, it's sort of like the cry wolf syndrome, right? We're really struggling with, we hear something and we panic, and we often will either hide our heads in the sand or we will just extremely respond, and we won't think as long term about, because it always sounds like it's right here, it's on your doorstep, it's going to happen.
Right. Fight, flight, or freeze, right? We're in this.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I feel like there's something showing here today in our group discussion about the importance of learning different ways to strategize and problem solve and, address uncertainty, address conflict, and like threats, and learning and practicing a whole spectrum of those things, so that when you're in that situation, you can they're saying it's like a martial art training. You know when to do certain things and when to not do those things, because you can conserve your energy, you can strategize differently, you may be able to prevent something entirely by doing something different.
And I've listened to some military guys, they're like, the last is fight. Everything is about diffusing, and they are trained in that. So I'm sure there's.
So let's jump in here and
Emergencies Act.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay, let's talk about.
How was the question presented there?
I would read it if I could see it.
Oh, dear. Okay.
Okay, yes, Garden Home. Okay, like maybe not enacting the Emergencies Act, LOL, exactly how I've been feeling, sitting in judgment. Okay, well, so basically they said the Emergency Act is like, was non-constitutional, which is more American, but basically it shouldn't have happened. And so it's been dropped, or it's been deemed that it was inappropriate as a response. So that's amazing. So where does that, I mean, I'd like to pose the question is, well, what does that do for us now? Like, so what does that, how does that help us? So with that being said, the 4 Alberta political prisoners, for Alberta political prisoners on Facebook. Anyway, so they got caught. And even though, I mean, they went through their case and was like, how was that even possible? Like I wasn't even there, or, you know, all these sorts of things. And then it was like, so none of it really kind of made sense. Anyway, 700 days in remand, not even jail, no trial, no bail, no nothing, which is so unheard of. That's why they invoke the Emergencies Act. They're like, see, they're terrorists. They were trying to overthrow the government. So that's what they were being charged with. So now that the Emergencies Act is deemed not appropriate or unconstitutional, how does that affect us and a country as a whole, or the world, or all of us, and then these 4 men in particular?
Okay, so this is interesting because it feels like there's a couple of messages coming through. One is like there's a dividing line between old approach and new approach. And again, we may have to spend a little bit of time in uncertainty. I'm getting maybe 8 or 10 weeks in uncertainty.
Okay.
And there may be a desire to jump in and create a movement, to create a particular political response and angle. Right. But they're saying there's something, the first thing that's really amazing about what's happening is, once again, it puts Canadian politics on the world stage in full view of everybody. So we're, in a way, it's like we want to almost wait a couple of months to, if anything, the guides are saying, just continue to make sure that the court decision gets posted everywhere. And it's almost less about the response right now as it is about continuing to almost milk the propaganda of like, make sure that the world sees this and keep it loud and going for the next couple of months before we create a counter response. Because what I'm being shown, and I was really getting this, I actually was noticing, funny enough, going into a grocery store and seeing a particular paper. And I went in 1 week later, and it was funny that I happened to catch the 2 front page, kind of articles or headlines. And 1 week it said something about Canada's becoming one of the countries that has the highest MAID program, right? So that's the assisted suicide. And they're saying that Canada is now like, our legislation around that is the most lax, the most liberal, whatever, right? So it was kind of like the headline was positioned to just put that out there and see what the response was. And then literally I went into the same grocery store a week later, saw the same paper headline, and it was like, oh, Canada's decided to pull back on their being the way they are politicizing this MAID service, and that Canadians don't feel comfortable with the legislation that's going in around this. And I was like, well, that's pretty clear, right? It's like they literally put out they're testing. They're basically testing, like, where's the public opinion at? What's the emotional,
what's our reaction? What's our response?
And where's the emotional tenor of so in a way, if you think about it, like, they're sort of treating us like Pavlov's dogs, right? Like, if they put this headline out, what are we going to do? If they put that one out, what are we going to do? If we ignore something.
Yeah.
So part of what I'm seeing is that almost we almost want to start playing a bit of cat and mouse with them, where we do a response that they think is one thing, but actually we have a different plan.
Really? They're not that smart. I'm sure we can figure this out.
Right?
Like,
so it's almost like you're thinking to yourself, you're thinking to yourself, like, what? It's almost like a chess game. You're thinking, okay, they made that maneuver.
Yeah.
And whatever the maneuver is, whoever's on the side about the court legislation and how this was deemed a criminal activity and so on, well, it's going to create a ripple effect, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to create a ripple effect in Canada and internationally. So the point is, let's steer that ripple effect and make the most out of it.
So cool, because February 15th, there's like a call to action for people to go to the courthouses in their cities to bring some awareness to what's happening about these 4 political prisoners.
Okay, so interesting. I would look at the dates, and I'm not feeling, funny enough, I feel like 1 month later than that would be better.
Oh, wow.
So it's almost like, again, we've got different people that are sort of promoting a certain type of action. Because remember, I was going, like, I saw 2 months around this. Like,
this is shocking.
9 weeks, 10 weeks, like, wait. Again, that uncertainty. And the other piece of the uncertainty you see is they're also uncertain about what we're going to do.
Yes. No, I got you. Just jumping in so fast feels reactionary. I hear this, what Tracy's saying here. She's like, I wonder when this manipulation will end. I feel so manipulated by both sides. I feel that, and she said, it's getting old, and I'm so weary of it all.
Okay, well, let's look at that. I also want to see what's going to happen. Gardenho asked about the criminal PM. So
yes, okay, yeah, okay, that's a good one. Okay, and then Gardenho's talking about Tucker. So that was massive. Tucker
was massive.
Came to Calgary here and just filled the house apparently. And yeah, so that's that. I don't know if you guys saw, you made a little phone call to our PM.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So like Tucker said, meme the heck out of these tyrants.
Okay, so let's talk about what's the consequence for the criminal PM, and also in response to, when is this the manipulation going to stop? So one of the things also that I've been shown a lot over the years is we did all choose to come to this planet at this time to, like, in a way, we all chose to be these kind of master chess players, like,
right.
So it's a little bit like saying, well, now that I'm here, I don't feel like playing chess. I feel like laying on the beach, which is fine. I mean, definitely you can't be playing chess all the time, but we did come here to I don't want to say battle. I want to say spar, to train with this manipulative energy, with this power dominant model. We came here to train.
I really love that, actually. That makes a lot of sense. It's just like, yeah, otherwise we'd just be apathetic. What would be the point? It also speaks to victimization to me, or lack thereof. And also it's like, why would I have been born into a family that hurt me? And why would I be in a relationship with people, someone who's so manipulative and underhanded, and I can't understand, why would I choose that? And why couldn't I see it? And then all of that. And then it's like, oh, training.
Well, and we just had this conversation this morning, my daughter and I, we both have really, really sensitive constitutions, and we have these flare-ups of different health conditions over the years. And it's like, it's always this feeling of, why am I so sensitive? Why, why do I have to be so careful with everything? And it feels a bit like a burden. Like, why do I have to suffer like this? And why do I have to struggle? But we always acknowledge that sensitivity gives us other abilities, like what I'm doing right now. That sensitivity also informs us how to address certain issues within ourselves quickly, and in doing so, we evolve faster. So it pushes our evolution. So this contrast of the struggle and them power dominating us, it literally is building our strength and building our potent evolution. It's like the force, almost like making diamonds in the pressure. It's the force of that pressure and us. It forces us to come right into the pure essence of who we are, like the crystalline form of our being. So I know that doesn't help in the moments that you're just like, what do I even do? Like,
yes,
right? Like, what do I do is the real drag. The fact, that's what I'm hearing the guides saying, is it's not even so much the contrast and the pressure. It's not knowing what to do to respond. So that is where I feel like our next trajectory of getting curious and creative and looking for solution-oriented new paradigm avenues of creation, that's my number one priority in this next year, 2, 3, regardless of what goes on out there. So let's look at what happens.
Because in the end, does it really matter? Only your response matters.
Well, I mean, of course it matters, because it's also, I do feel there's something about how we get exhausted, we get tired, like she's saying, and
Mm-hmm.
what that is a really clear indicator to take your foot off the gas pedal and just cruise for a while. Don't try to solve it. If you're tired, your whole psyche and system is saying, I've ingested enough. Like, I actually was getting a message also in the last couple of weeks that the majority of us truthers have taken in enough data and intel to last us for the next decade. Like, we just need to coast now and start building solutions and responses, no matter what version of that.
I hear that about the information. It's getting exhausting. And then all of a sudden something like, so that sort of thing. And I also mean, coming to exhaustion and just sort of some radical self-care, stop it all, just going within, stop taking on so much, taking on anything for a while.
Well, this is very interesting about the corrupt PM. Wow. This is really interesting.
Dead.
Yeah. Something, definitely, it's not as it appears. I mean, I think I probably have to side with Janine on this one. I'm not even sure if that's the real person.
One day he's got a gap in his teeth. The next day he can't speak French very well. So I would say,
yeah, there's definitely a lot of smoke and mirrors going on here, and I'm wondering if the person is actually even still with us. So it's almost a little bit more like what the puppet role, right? Like that puppet role. Yeah. What's going to happen to that?
Yeah. Right.
Right. 7 of Cups. So the illusion. Yeah. The illusion continues. Maybe another 7 weeks. Maybe another 7 months. But there's a big, like, they're pretty much, it's the end of the road for them. I'm actually getting more like 7 weeks, 3 months. So
yeah, I could see that now. The Emergencies Act shouldn't have done that. And
yeah, they're going to be out, I think, within 3 or 4 months, and maybe replaced by a woman.
Okay, and it looks like a good woman, correct?
Well,
integrity or
starts off looking that way. I mean, yeah, let's have a pull of the cards about that. Well, a little bit in the old paradigm still. So a good person, but like a woman that's like a man, basically.
Yep. So she's programmed, right? Yeah. And she's in the program.
Yeah. Although you see, it's a
New
catalyst.
beginning, right? Is that right?
New beginning. So even though we put all our store in this person is going to fix us. This person is going to save us. This leader is going to, and it's like, no, they're going to provide the stimulus and the incentive for us to grow the next leg of the journey together. But we are the ones that are saving us. We are the ones.
Yep, 100%.
It's our response.
If it's too much of a switch, it might be detrimental too, right? If it's all of a sudden this is some new paradigm and we're not doing it this way, and it could be mass chaos.
Well, I mean, it's just like, it's just like learning something new. We're not going to get it instantly. And so if it's given to us in a whole package, all done for us, we're never going to integrate it. Never.
Yeah, 100%.
We have to develop a lot of this stuff ourselves in order to learn through trial and error and through true personal evolution. And actually, so that when we are in those new paradigm realities, we earned our way there, and we're not going to slide back because we've evolved there. If it's just handed to us, like, here, we've set it all for you. Here's the new thing. It's like people are still going to live the old program in the new thing.
Yes. Oh, no, 100%. It's like giving kids everything they want. They have to work for anything, they have to try anything, and they just end up feeling horrible about themselves.
Yeah.
This is so interesting, Christian. Okay, so first of all, Christian, I just have to say thank you so much. It was a little earlier, but basically had a reading with you and just said, I'm looking for it now. Just said thank you that he didn't get the thing, he or she, I'm not sure, I think, didn't get the thing, and is just getting a settlement now. So so he's grateful for the reading, and that's amazing. So we got it. Yeah, and everyone's like, yeah, good on you. So also he said, yesterday I channeled Phil Schneider, don't know who it is, and asked him who is currently fighting the controllers in the moon. And I got that it is our future selves. Will we be meeting our future selves in an upcoming future? That's a cool question.
I got the chills. That's exciting.
That's
exciting.
That's cool.
Definitely. Oh yeah. Isn't that sweet? Okay.
Why are we paying? This is more like Earthbound. Why are we paying taxes for the Ukraine? Good question.
Good question.
Yeah. It is a good question. So okay. I just want to put this out here. I don't want to put out too much out, but this is good. Farmers are lined up in front of Justin's beachfront hotel in France, ready for him when he runs away. I didn't know that. That's awesome. It's kind of fun. Get the popcorn, right? It's good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, yeah. And so this is again, almost what the other piece, like there's, I don't know. I feel like there's like these. I keep hearing chess for some reason. I'm actually, it's come up in readings this week, and I'm like, okay, maybe it's time to revisit and get a little more practice with that game, because it isn't about like controlling or dominating or manipulating. It's about seeing the grand stage and all the way the moves and the different counter moves and all the way, sort of like the complexity of how we respond, because we are trained, programmed little Pavlov's dogs. That bell rings and we salivate. Like, that's the piece. We can do so much better than that, and how we get better than that is we literally train by practicing strategy games like chess,
Yeah, makes tons of sense. I remember in the Palladian readings, in the channelings, they say every time you see a chessboard, like that flag, or every time you see a chessboard, think about where you are and what you're thinking about and what you're manifesting. And I thought, what's that? And remember, this is a game.
It is. And we are capable of holding a lot of different moves and counter moves. We just have lost the brain capacity to exercise that ability.
Get
that back.
Yes. Okay. So, yeah. Right.
I just want to say about our future selves and the moon, because that was a cool question.
Yeah. It was cool.
And so they're saying, isn't it interesting who we fall in love with? And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? And they're like, we often will, I've never seen this before, but they're saying we will tag through lifetimes with our future self coming back to be our like partner, especially a really divine partnership, like a spiritual partnership. So we actually, it's possible that we fall in love with our future selves that come back to work with us. Wow. I mean, I don't know how often that happens, but they're saying our future selves come into this reality. They choose to come back and be with their past selves and have a counter life beside the life that they lived before.
Wow. To help liberate us, essentially.
To help liberate and to like heal and grow and learn together and all of that. So obviously they're not conscious of that at the time, but there's this,
Right.
we
So
do this.
twin flame, or maybe like soulmate kind of thing, where it's like you're both lifting each other up.
Yeah. And it is a little bit like that's a version of you from the past or the future. So that's a
Gordon was saying I have a few choice words for my future self. What are you doing?
right. Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because, you know, that gives the opportunity to consider that we actually, yeah, like it's not just about getting together and having a pleasurable time and, you know, hanging out in this lifetime. We're trying to get stuff healed and evolved and trying to almost get somewhere.
Yeah,
Like
you're here
into
for your
a
own
future.
evolution. So
Totally.
you set things up for that to happen.
Yeah.
You've already played part of this game of chess in a way, right?
So, and to make a comment about that, being on the moon and fixing and healing that, and that's our future selves. Absolutely. Absolutely. I see this. And also that our future selves, yeah, we're going to see a lot more of this overlap and interaction. They're saying anywhere from the next 3 years, 30 years, 300 years. So there's going to be a lot more, I want to say, conversation and awareness about this. And the other place that future selves go is into different places in the earth, like into mountains, into volcanoes. They go, like when we cross over, some people go to do healing work with the earth and to counteract some of the negative energies and help release them in a good way. So similarly with the moon, similarly with, you know, mountains and different geological forms in our earth. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of mythology talk about people dying and turning into the rocks or the mountains.
Wow.
So
That's incredible.
So in a way, it's like we're surrounded by past versions of ourselves.
Yes. Well, the Palladians are supposed to be from the future, and they're coming to help us.
That's right.
So I could be one of them. So I could be one of the intergalactics or galactic beings coming back also to come talk. Okay, so because we're all connected, then I think that, you know, well, we're all one. So it doesn't matter who I bring in, I'm bringing an aspect of me always, am I not?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Right? So it doesn't, yeah. So who you channeling, well, it doesn't matter aspect of me, us.
It is, and I mean, this is where it goes into the quantum, and that gets very confusing.
Right.
Talk about the word confusing. Because it will, of course, eventually bring you back to, well, whatever my outer reality is, whatever's going on, whatever versions of myself I'm surrounded by, or in the landscape where I live and up in the moon and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's still, I am me now. And it's all about, this is the moment, this present moment, and the you now is the one that has agency to choose how to grow, how to interact, and I think the beauty of seeing that so much of what surrounds us is parts of us is that we don't need to feel abandoned. We don't need to feel like we're on our own with all of this. This is one of the massive healings is I feel like abandonment and loneliness is a big, we talked about trust earlier. I want to kind of begin to wrap it up with abandonment and loneliness. And when we find our way, and all of these, the ancient mythologies, these modern stories about off-worlders and Palladians and future selves and past selves, all of these things are coming forward now into our awareness, because we are going to need to feel that support in order to respond and move forward with courage in this most extraordinary time we're in. We're going to need those allies. We're going to need the other versions of ourselves. We really need them now.
Amazing. Yeah, the fact that we're never ever alone. I saw in a session when one client was saying she just felt completely surrounded. I mean, like completely surrounded by all of her ancestors, all of these people, all of the lives, and not this life, all of the lives of all of the time, recognizing all of the people who have been there all along, all along. How could we be alone?
Yeah.
So beautiful. But I was just going to say, I was just going to read here, that the taxes are BS, and it would tax theft. The mafia do the same thing. Why are we paying taxes, period? Okay, so Phil Schneider is the whistleblower of the Dulce Wars and the Dumbs in the 90s. The Dumbs in the 90s. Okay, Christian, thank you. I didn't realize that. That's thank you. The universe doesn't hear words, it feels energy. Okay, hi ladies. Love what the truckers are doing in the US. Okay. Will the UK start to protect our shoreline? So can we just, I know, but okay. So basically in Texas, all this stuff is happening in the Emergency Act. They're down with the Emergency Act. Then Tucker Carlson comes here and does this big speech. He's coming to liberate Canada, phones Trudeau. And at the same time, on the Texas border, apparently there's military. You guys could probably correct me and know more about it, but there's military down there because there's just people have been walking across the Mexican border. And I was telling Michelle, I met this American, this Texan, and he said Iranians are walking over. It's not just Mexico, like all kinds of people from all over the world. They're just walking over the border. Nobody's stopping them. So there's a lot of talk around, there's a lot of talk about it being about, uncovering the human and all the really ugly stuff.
Okay, interesting. Ooh.
Let's talk about the UK. Are they gonna?
Oh, wow. This is cool. Okay.
Right? Or
yeah. Okay. So yeah. This is a 50-50 is what I'm hearing. This is a 50, the Five of Pentacles. This is a 50-50. Half of it is, yes, like the stopping of the trafficking. And I do believe there's a positive intervention happening, and it's going to change legislation. It's going to bring awareness to things. Gold star on that side. The other side of the coin is we are rapidly moving into a global phenomena of what they're calling what's the word? I'm trying to think of the word. It's where you no longer have, like, there's no security. Nobody has a secure home. So like transient's not the right word. A global displacement. That's the word I'm looking for. So a global displacement phenomena is rapidly emerging. And over the next 20 years, we're going to see like huge portions of the global population, for a whole variety of reasons, shifting their home country of origin. I mean, we see so many expats now all over the planet. A lot of people, like a lot of
borders, really, like passports and borders and all that.
Totally. A lot of my Canadian Awake friends are looking at, moving to other countries and getting different citizenships and passports and buying properties in different places. And I really believe that having a more diverse understanding relationship with where we live, how we live, and that, we can be caretakers and custodians of places, but we don't actually own them.
Yeah, right.
So there's something, half of this is beautiful, that there's awareness being brought and that there's these boundary lines being drawn and that it's, exposing the corruption at these borders. The other half is that this is, like, look at homelessness in North America in the last 5 years. This, in the next 20 years, it's like we're going to see just masses of people from all over, moving all over, us included, a lot of us. So we're going to start to work with a larger phenomena, which is not about globalism. It's not about like, okay, we're going to make a standard and have a top-down operation of controlling where people migrate to on the planet and what kind of rights they have and what kind of, resources they have access to. But we are going to begin to look at the not just the immediate crises in one region, but the larger systemic, I want to say, challenge or opportunity to change things, invitation to change things.
Well, because COVID happened on a world scale,
right.
It wasn't escaping or hiding, or there was no way to do that, and it made everybody connected. We couldn't say not on my doorstep anymore, and we're going to protect my border. It was everywhere, and it almost kickstarted this whole idea of, hey, COVID doesn't have any borders.
Yeah. Well, so I'm not advocating that we don't have borders, and I'm not advocating that we don't protect our borders, but I am suggesting that the other half of the equation is that we begin to operate on a whole new system economically that's based more on egalitarian contributionism, which is not, by the way, communism. It's very different.
Literally, see a lot of people really liking the idea, like the kind of a younger generation liking the idea of socialism, and I get the premise, but I also get, how dark it is and how none of those systems work. And
well, it's another centralized, power dominant model of authority.
100%. But probably what they're talking about is egalitarianism, and I think we're often talking about the same thing. Lots of us,
totally.
Talking about the same thing, but there's just this idea of, with these forces that seem to divide us. So, yeah. So they want to know, okay, so it was Jill Woodman that says, hi, ladies, love what the truckers are doing in the U.S. Will the UK start to protect our shorelines?
Okay. Yeah. I love that too, how these movements just kind of like, the farmers in Holland, and like, it's just these different movements in different parts of the world and how they inspire a similar kind of flourish. It's almost like they're showing me like the way, mycelium are connected under the earth, even under the oceans, I've been shown. So it's like, ideas spread like this. We don't even necessarily need the internet. It's like the 100th monkey phenomena,
100%.
People are over here doing something, and next thing you know, like people are over here kind of imitating that, even if they didn't know exactly about it, they feel it, and it's inspiring them. So there's going to be, as we continue to see and feel people responding in all these creative ways, it's going to continue to up level and open up the possibilities. I just have to say, and I will answer your question, but I have to say, I always have this, like, kind of connecting the truckers and the farmers, and that maybe that's a sign that there's going to be more of that in the future. But I just have this image of some of the footage that we watched during the convoy. And it was when the trucks went through Saskatchewan, which, for those of you that aren't Canadian, this is like our massive central part of Canada that's just flat farmland.
Prairies, breadbasket.
Hours and hours and hours of driving through that, like a day and a half or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, and so the convoy is going through there, and there's all these farmers in their combines, and it's cold, man. This is like January. They've been out there like heating those things up with their their battery heaters, and like it probably took them a day just to get ready to go out to the highway with their combines, right? And they're all lined up on the on-ramp to the highway because they're going to just join in that little leg of the convoy in support, right? So the funny part that just still tickles my fancy is that there was these police, the RCMP, the traffic cops or whatever, they were positioned a blockade so that these combines couldn't get onto the highway. Next thing you know, these combine farmers are like off on the side of like down the ditch, up into a field, like cutting the fence. Boom, they go across the field, and they're all following like little Tonka toys, and they're up over the bank and onto the freeway, like right around the blockade. Right. And it was just like, oh my God, right? Like
that, the amount of inspiration and hope that just broke through, finally just bursted into light. Yeah, and the Amish, like little Hutterite ladies or the Amish people, they're bringing lunch. What? What was like, what?
Yeah. So this, the guides are saying, pay attention to these things. Like, I know we get upset, and I know we want big actions and big consequences and big change, but the real beauty is in those little things. Because I wept when I saw that. At first I laughed, and then I started crying. I was just like so touched, and I was so proud to be Canadian at that moment. Like all of it, I was just like, oh my God, look at these guys. I know. So
that's the finest moment, I think, ever.
Never underestimate that feeling. That feeling is the revolution. That is the thing that the controllers do not want us to feel.
You know what I was going to say? Like, you could tap into that feeling anytime.
Well, and
this moment, the next moment, to create the next moment. Gardner was saying that was awesome to see. Convoy was 20 miles long at one point.
Yeah, right. So look at this.
Lord of the Rings moments.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a little bit of also a feeling of like tag team happening here. So the answer to the question about the UK is yes. And it will it's sort of like taking things in turns or laps. So it's like there'll be something like a success, a response, and then people will rest, and then another country will pick it up, and then they'll rest, and then another country will pick it up. So it's going to, and then it's going to cycle. There's going to be cycling. Amazing. But overall, as time goes by, we're basically creating this energy of solidarity, because just like when you think about the power dominant manipulators, they're always trying to like sew up every exit ramp, like put the, we already thought of that. We put the RCMP blockage up there. But there's human ingenuity, which is so unpredictable. So there's always going to be ways that people are finding a way around that. And as that happens more and more and more, and we take turns. So the answer is it's going to, yes, there will be that sort of action there, and then it will go underground again. It'll look like it didn't work or it's gone under, but don't despair. Give it another year or two, and boop, up it pops again. And look, where did it jump to next? Where did it jump to next?
Now it's in Texas, right? And they're like, hey, trucks, right? So it's been the symbol.
You're not an isolate out there, even though you are an island and often have felt like an isolate. But, you're part of this web, and it's activating like popcorn all over the place. So don't be discouraged if it doesn't, activate and stick, because it's going to continue to cycle. But down the road, there's enough critical mass. This is that back to the 100th monkey phenomena, which is a certain percentage, and it's not huge. It's 10%. Once 10% has literally reached the critical mass of either frequency, of, finding ways around critical thinking, independent thinking, sovereignty. Once there's a critical mass of that, everyone on the planet will be able to access that so much easier. So, they might not all switch over right away, but the critical mass will have tipped the scales to the point where there's no going back. And so how long is that going to take? I mean, I sometimes feel like we're already there. We just have to open our eyes and see that we're there. Choose your own timeline is what the guys are saying. What feels comfortable to you? Did it happen already in the past? Is it happening today? 2 months from now, a year or two from now, 10 years from now? What feels like a timeline that you can go, yeah, that's what feels right to me. And if we can kind of imagine it close to the now, it feels like, again, you're going to know that it's happening in your world when all you see is that. Like, for example, when I tell people all the time, when I go out and meet new people, all I meet is awake people. Like, all I meet is awake people. Like maybe 90% and 1% that isn't. So supposedly the odds on the world are not that. But because I have done so much immersion and work with this reality for so long, I am attracting that frequency everywhere I go. And so in my world, we are already across to this.
Because you're choosing your timeline. You're choosing which direction you want to be on. Yeah. So that's why I always feel like it doesn't so much matter what's happening there. It matters what you're choosing here. What are you creating? How are you thinking?
Which, of course, brings us back to the beginning of our chat today around, they're saying trust and the word faith as well.
Yes. It's almost like
faith in yourself. Do you have trust in yourself, and do you have faith in yourself? Regardless of what goes on out there, do you know where you stand, what you stand for, and how you're going to defend that? Kind of it.
I love it. Well, yeah, your own internal compass. So Jill Woodman saying, I'd love to hear Sue's input next time on Dolores Cannon's work and what she would make of all of this. So yeah, I'll try to have a look at that. And I think even more so, like, I know things have shifted since Dolores has been around because, right? So in Dolores's time, they would have said the earth, what was coming to her through people is that what they were seeing is the earth completely splitting. And I just heard in a session that came out, a session that I had with the client, saying that's a worst case scenario. That is not appearing to be happening at all. More of us, and you can see work like that in the Bible, saying that the least amount of loss and pain is what, right? So trying to bring as many people along as they can.
So for the people that believe that the earth is already split, that's their choice timeline. And for them, they will attract that reality, and that will be their perception. And so much more of what is available to them will be based on that belief. So again, this is, Woo! Big hugs to you all.
Okay, I just have to say, so Carmen said here, Evergrande is ordered to pay $300 billion to liquidate everything ordered in the Hong Kong court. And yes, Carmen, Gardner-Ho says, significant to the financial system going.
Well, I feel like we'll leave that one for next week. The financial system is one of my favorite topics. And
okay.
The timeline around all of this is also a big favorite topic of mine.
No kidding. If you think of all the things that are actually happening.
Well, what did they say? Follow the money, right?
Yeah. Saudi Arabia joined BRICS. Yeah. I didn't understand too much about BRICS, but I understand it's a really good thing when somebody does. So.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for your responses. We will go back and check them out after and see if we can
get over the petrodollar
next time.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, we'll keep this. Okay, right on. Yeah, BRICS taking over the petrodollar, and the petrodollar will collapse. That's exciting.
In some time, in some way, yes. So
right. Okay. Stay tuned. Right. Okay. So Gordon said, fun gig today. Thanks, everyone. Yes.
Yeah. Likewise. Blessings to you all. We'll see you next week. Bye for now. Woohoo!